On these university caps for students, the carrot, I suppose, of your approach is offering the universities a chance to exceed that cap if they build more accommodation for students that want to come in. Have you had any conversations or indications from the universities that have got a site in mind or that say, yeah, we will build more accommodation? Is that something that there's any appetite for?
I believe that there is. I certainly know I was in JCU Townsville campus recently and they've opened some student accommodation. I was lucky enough to open it a while ago. And I also know that they're talking with other proponents to do that as well. So that's one instance I'm aware of. We know that there is a need for student accommodation. We know how important that the international education sector is, where those discussions again are ongoing with Vice-Chancellors and their organisations behind the scenes. It's really important that we restore integrity to the system, but we also know how important international student numbers are at the same time. I think we're getting that balance right behind the scenes in terms of those discussions, and the Minister will have more to say on that shortly.
Are the universities right when they think 10% of the workforce could have to be shed when these caps come in? That's their estimate, 14,000 jobs across the country.
Yeah, I understand, and I've seen some of those claims that they're making, and I meet with Vice-Chancellors regularly. What we're confident about is ensuring the long-term viability of the higher education sector. We know that international students are an important part of that. They are important to their financial situation, but they're also important in many regional towns for the workforce they provide at the same time. But we want to ensure that those international students are having a good education when they come here and they go back and be ambassadors for us. So they need to have a good experience. There's been a number of studies that have shown that that hasn't been the case. So it's important that those people that do come have a good experience and we enhance the value of that international education experience.
They could be in the ballpark with 14,000 jobs to go.
I wouldn't put a number on it, but I understand that. But we're providing a lot of support for universities. We want to get this right because it is important, and we are confident that we are doing that work behind the scenes to give the universities the confidence they need to operate into the future.
You've been around this place quite some time in the Senate. You can't get kicked out in there for disorderly conduct. But what's your view on the back and forth in the chamber? Is it misogynistic, as the Teals are claiming today?
Look, I'd like to think that the Senate on most occasions operates a bit differently. Obviously, no one has a majority in the Senate, or hasn't for a long time. When you think about the challenge we confront in the Senate, where the Labor Party are 25 of 76, so we need a lot of support to get there. What I try and do is lead by example. I try and be respectful of my colleagues, my staff and other people in the building. I'd encourage other people to do that. There obviously needed to be a lift in standards, so I think this report is an important part of that. And then obviously we ultimately get judged by the Australian people, and that's the challenge when you're dealing with these issues when it comes to parliamentarians. I think that we can do more to lift standards. I think that this is an important report and an important process.
This is putting another judgment in there, not just the judgment of the Australian people. It's saying some committee can fine members. Well, it's another judgment, isn't it? It has its dangers.
It ultimately ends up with the Privileges Committee, and then it's a matter for the Senate in terms of how it works in terms of impact on members of Parliament. I think that's entirely appropriate still, because it does leave it in the hands of the Senate. And then I think it's up to us to lift those standards. There's no doubt that the Australian people want us to do better. Sometimes I'm sure they'd be watching on and they'd be appalled by the behaviour. As I said before, I try and lead by example. I don't always get that right. You want robust debate, but you want it to be done in a respectful way. I think that that's something that we should all strive to achieve.
Do you think Andrew Giles regrets giving visitor visas to people out of Palestine?
No, there's obviously a very difficult situation that we're dealing with. It is effectively a war zone there. I'm unaware of what happened in question time in the reps today. It wasn't a topic that was covered in the Senate, but ensuring that the safety of Australians is obviously the utmost importance for any government decision in regards to these areas, but we also want to ensure that we're doing the right thing as part of the international community as well.